Have you ever paid close attention to how certain women express interest without ever saying it directly? There is a quiet, deliberate way they check whether a man is worth moving toward, and it becomes especially noticeable when the man is over 50. Rather than showing their hand openly, they ask questions, specific ones, and most men walk right past those questions without ever understanding what was really being said. Here is what so many men completely fail to grasp. When a woman feels genuinely drawn to a mature man, she will almost always express that attraction through two very particular questions. They look ordinary on the surface. They sound like casual conversation, but underneath, they carry an entirely different message. If this has ever happened to you and you only realized it later, share your experience in the comments. It helps other men understand they are not alone in missing these moments. There is a widespread belief among men over 50 that they have somehow become invisible, that women no longer look their way, that their time has passed. But that belief could not be further from the truth. Mature men are often more compelling than ever, not in spite of their age, but because of it. The actual problem is not a lack of attraction. It is a failure to recognize it when it appears. Men move through conversations thinking a woman is simply being friendly, when in reality, she was quietly opening a door and waiting to see if he would walk through it. Women rarely advertise their interest the way men might expect. They do not announce it. Instead, they watch. They measure a man's emotional steadiness, his presence, and his ability to pick up on things that are not stated out loud. This is how feminine psychology tends to operate. And when a woman begins to see a man as someone she could genuinely trust, someone she might want to be physically and emotionally closer to, a shift happens. Her energy moves from light, surface-level conversation towards something more deliberate. She begins asking questions that are designed to reveal three things: whether he carries himself with inner strength, whether he is emotionally and practically available, and whether he is the kind of man who notices what is actually being communicated beneath the words. That is precisely when these two questions surface. But to truly appreciate why they matter, you need to understand the deeper psychology driving them. Men who grew up in an era of more direct communication often expect clear signals. They wait for something obvious. But women today, even those who are themselves mature, tend to express interest through exploration rather than declaration. They do not come out and say they are attracted to someone or that they want to get closer. What they do instead is probe. They ask carefully worded questions that let them approach without fully exposing themselves. The reason behind this is rooted in a quiet fear that many women carry, particularly when it comes to older men. If she makes her interest too obvious, she risks looking desperate or too forward. So she tucks her attraction inside what sounds like simple curiosity. She wraps it in questions that appear harmless to anyone not paying close attention. And if those questions go unnoticed, she will rarely ask them again. Women do not tend to extend the same emotional invitation a second time. The door opens once. Think about the difference between how men and women signal desire. When a man is interested, he tends to act. He offers help, steps up, takes initiative. When a woman is interested, she asks. She uses questions the way a man might use gestures. And among all the questions a woman might ask in the course of an ordinary conversation, two come up again and again whenever she is quietly testing the possibility of something deeper with a mature man. She does not ask these questions because she wants information. She asks them because she wants to feel something. She wants to sense whether he is calm, grounded, emotionally present, and genuinely open. She wants to know if he leads from a place of inner strength or if he hides behind surface pleasantness. These questions are not requests for data. They are small bridges she places between herself and a man she is drawn to, waiting to see if he steps onto them with confidence and warmth. When he does, something shifts in how she experiences him. When he does not, that door quietly closes. Most men respond to these questions at their most literal level. They answer what was asked without ever recognizing what was meant. But a man with genuine awareness understands that the words on the surface are not the whole conversation. When she asks these particular questions, she is not collecting facts. She is checking alignment. She is measuring whether this man operates on a level she can actually connect with. Here is something worth sitting with. By the time a woman encounters a man in his 50s or beyond, she carries a specific set of assumptions about him. She assumes he has already moved through most of the major chapters of his emotional life. She hesitates to step into his world unless she feels certain there is actually room for her there, that she would matter and not just be a passing presence. These two questions are her way of testing exactly that. Is there space for her? Is this man living with direction and intention, or is he simply going through the motions? You can miss a compliment. You can overlook body language. But if you miss these two questions, you miss the precise moment when a woman is trying to open a connection with you. And once she closes that door internally, most women never open it again. So what are the two questions? The first one is this: do you spend a lot of time alone? It sounds completely harmless, conversational, innocent. It is not. This question is her way of asking whether there is room in your life for someone else. Not room on your schedule, but room in your emotional world. She is checking whether you are accessible, or whether you have locked yourself so deeply into your routines and your solitude that closeness with you is simply not possible. She might phrase it in slightly different ways. She might ask if you usually go out by yourself, or whether you tend to keep to yourself, or whether you are seeing anyone or just living your own rhythm lately. The exact phrasing shifts, but the underlying question is always the same. A woman only asks this when she has already imagined herself somewhere near your life. She has already, even briefly, pictured what it might look like to step into your world. And now she wants to know whether that world would welcome her or push her back. If she felt nothing for you, the way you spend your time would be completely irrelevant to her. The mistake most men make is answering too literally. They say yes, they spend a lot of time alone, or no, not really, or something vague and non-committal. None of that lands the way it should. What she actually needs to feel in your response is balance. She needs to sense that you value your independence, that you are not hollow and desperate for company, but also that you are genuinely open to meaningful connection. Something like telling her you enjoy your own space, but you are always open to good company, or that you have your routines, but you welcome someone who genuinely adds something. That kind of answer does two things at once. It shows her you are emotionally available without being needy. And it creates just enough opening for her to imagine herself as that person. She feels warmth in that response. She feels possibility and safety. And that naturally draws out the second question, the one that reveals even more of her interest. The second question is this: what are you looking for these days? Do not mistake this for casual small talk. It is not. A woman who feels nothing for you would never ask something this personal. It feels too exposed, too direct, too intimate for someone she sees as just an acquaintance. She reserves this question for men who have started to feel meaningful to her. She might frame it differently depending on the moment. She might ask what direction you are moving in, what you are focused on right now, what you want at this point in your life, or what you are hoping to find. The words vary. The intention does not. What she is really trying to understand is your inner direction. Not your career goals or your financial plans, but whether your life has genuine momentum and masculine clarity behind it. Women do not open themselves emotionally to men who seem to be drifting. They move toward men who feel anchored, men who know who they are, what they stand for, and where they are headed. This question helps her feel whether you carry that quality. Is this man emotionally alive? Does he move through life with intention? Can she feel safe in his presence? Does he have a sense of self? Or is he just filling time until something happens to him? When she asks this, she is mentally stepping into the feeling of what closeness with you would actually be like. A woman might notice a man physically, but she only truly moves toward him when his presence draws her in. This question is her doorway into sensing who you actually are beneath the surface. Men who answer this question without understanding its purpose tend to break the moment without realizing it. Saying you are just looking for peace, or that you are taking things one day at a time, or that you are not really sure right now, communicates something she does not want to hear. It communicates drift. And women simply do not invest their emotional energy in men who are adrift, regardless of age or appearance. What she needs to hear is direction, not a speech, not your full life story, just clarity. You might tell her you are building a simpler, stronger chapter of your life surrounded by the right people, or that you are looking for connection that feels natural and real rather than forced, or that you are focused on living with intention and creating experiences that actually mean something. Responses like these accomplish three things for her at once. They show her you are moving forward, not stuck in the past. They demonstrate that you know what you want. And they create a quiet opening where she can begin to imagine herself fitting naturally into the life you are describing. This matters enormously to a woman. It gives her something to lean toward. It signals that you are not emotionally switched off, and that is something most men over 50 never fully appreciate. Women want a man who is genuinely alive on the inside, not just physically present but emotionally awake and engaged with his own life. These two questions are deeply woven into the way female desire actually operates. Women do not test men randomly. They test based on emotional readiness. When she asks whether you spend a lot of time alone, she is measuring your openness. When she asks what you are looking for, she is measuring your direction. The logic underneath both is straightforward. A man who is emotionally available and moving through life with purpose creates pull. He becomes someone worth leaning into. Women are not looking for perfection. They are looking for clarity. Clarity creates a sense of safety, and safety is what awakens genuine desire. That is why these two questions appear again and again across different women, different situations, different ages and backgrounds. Even when a woman does not consciously understand why she is asking them, she asks them anyway because they come from something instinctive and deeply feminine. Picture the moment in real life. You are somewhere comfortable, a cafe, a bookstore, a mutual friends gathering, or even in an online conversation. The exchange feels easy. There is a soft, pleasant tension between you. She laughs a little more than the situation strictly calls for. She touches her hair. She holds your gaze with a certain warmth. And then she asks, somewhat casually, whether you spend a lot of time on your own. That question is her first emotional step in your direction. It is her nudging the door open just slightly. If you respond with calm, grounded presence, she feels encouraged to keep going. If you answer with confusion or shut the energy down, you will feel the conversation cool almost immediately. Then, sometime later, she asks what you are looking for these days. That is her second step. That is the moment she is deciding whether to go deeper. If your answer carries clarity and direction, she feels possibility open up between you. If your answer is uncertain or vague, she quietly pulls back. Men tend to think these moments are random. They are not. They are emotional checkpoints. And women almost never ask these two questions to a man they feel nothing for. Here is what must never be forgotten. A woman who wants genuine intimacy, not just pleasant conversation, but real emotional and physical closeness, will not say so directly. She will not confess it. She will not chase you. She will ask two questions. She will ask whether your life has room for her, and she will ask whether you are the kind of man worth letting in. Those questions are her signal. They are her version of an invitation. When you recognize them, you can respond with presence and intention. When you miss them, the moment evaporates, and women almost never extend the same emotional invitation a second time. The door opens, it stays open briefly, and then it closes. If there is only one thing worth carrying away from all of this, let it be this. A woman is not testing your words. She is testing your awareness. She is testing whether you are the kind of man who notices what is really being said. When you can recognize the questions she uses to quietly signal desire, you will never again have to wonder whether a woman is genuinely interested. You will simply know. Women communicate attraction through signals that are subtle, emotional, and often completely invisible to men who are waiting for something more obvious. This is especially true when it comes to mature men. Women hold older men to a different standard. They expect more depth from them, more presence, more self-knowledge. A younger man can seem uncertain or inconsistent and still be seen as someone still finding his way. But a man in his 50s is expected to have lived enough to know who he is. That is why when a woman is drawn to a man at that stage of life, her interest shows up not through obvious gestures, but through quiet emotional signals. When she asks questions that touch on your openness or your direction, she is not simply gathering information. She is trying to feel the emotional landscape of who you are. She wants to sense whether approaching you will feel like stepping into something solid, and this matters beyond attraction alone. The same quality of presence that makes a woman feel safe enough to open up is what creates lasting connection. Listening fully, not just to the words, but to what is underneath them. Creating moments of genuine warmth and closeness rather than simply going through the motions. And acknowledging the woman in front of you as a whole, complex, remarkable individual, not just a role she fills in your life. These things are what she actually remembers. Not grand performances or expensive gestures, but the feeling of being truly seen. That is what stays. That is what draws her back. And that is the kind of man a woman genuinely wants to be close to.